Mayor Chris Rosenquist, the new mayor of Plattsburgh, welcome to NBC5 In Depth. You're 3 months into the job, sworn in during a raging pandemic. That had to have been a little different. How's it going so far?
So far, so good. There's been, a little bit of normalcy return to city operation. Even in the pandemic, we, as cautious as we've been to meet with people, we've still been able to meet with people, be out in the community, do the work that we were hired to do, and it's been exciting.
Yeah, but you can't go out and press the flesh and get to know everybody in town like you normally would.
Yeah, and that's been a challenge, and so we've tried to leverage like social channels and other forms of medium to get out and to ensure people are still informed. Like, for example, our meetings are being held on Zoom, they're live streamed on YouTube, and we certainly encourage people to attend meetings that way. But of the other initiatives that we're holding and we're hosting and pushing in the city, that's something that it's been challenging to engage with people, but at the same time, we've been doing everything that we can to make sure people are engaged.
Which, and we're doing this via Zoom for the same reason, but hopefully not for too much longer. But I mean, you were sworn in right at the very beginning of January. You couldn't even have a rally or a celebration or punch and cookies?
No, we kind of did it, just a handful of us. It was my wife and I and our son and Judge Blatchley, who was here, and it was just a small thing. We even streamed that on Facebook.
Right.
We streamed live on Facebook, that thing, but still, we've had to do things a little different. That's just the nature of it right now, and we're trying to get back to it.
Well, I wanted to ask you about pandemic recovery, but first, you're a Democrat. Are you a Joe Biden Democrat or a Bernie Sanders type Democrat?
Honestly, I probably would lean more towards Bernie Sanders in that social aspect, and the programs that have been espoused through the Sanders campaign. But I will tell you, I don't lean too heavily on the politics side of it. I'm here to serve my community in any capacity that I can.
That's right.
But I do like the social programs. I do like that social aspect of government serving its people better. We're on the right track, I think.
Well, I mean, you came to Plattsburgh because your dad was in the Air Force, and that was back during the waning days of the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base, and you stuck around. Now you are leading a city, we hope, robustly out of a pandemic, leading one of the big cities of the Lake Champlain Basin. How is this recovery likely to unfold? How much damage to your community has been done, do you think?
We are heavily reliant on tourism dollars, and as we've seen, the Canadian border's been closed for a significant amount of time. We didn't necessarily see a lot of that traffic come through, and even though we had projected a sales tax decrease in the double digits, we quite frankly only saw a 3 or 4% decrease in our sales tax numbers. We ended up adding another $1.4 million back to our budget, back to our general fund at the end of this year, towards February after the books were closed, which was a positive thing. The federal funds that are going to come through, the city is slated to receive $2.14 million in federal aid to municipalities, and that's direct federal unencumbered aid to municipality. So we're looking at leveraging that over the next 2 years' time to restore some of our losses to individual departments, and then use that money for long-term investment and savings over time in infrastructure. But in terms of the financial recovery, it's looking positive. We still have people coming into our community, even people traveling to just get vaccinated. We have people coming into our community and spending their dollars here. We have locals that are spending their dollars locally, and we still encourage to do that safely. And we've seen businesses open even in our downtown amidst the pandemic.
Well, that takes some courage.
And it does, and we do whatever we can to support them, not only from the business side of things, but from the government side of things, to see how we can support their business, either helping promote, getting them in touch with programs, grants, any types of funding that they may need, pointing them to our partner organizations. And the Chamber of Commerce has been really great at, allowing and encouraging people to open and giving them the necessary support to open. So it's looking up, and it's a very optimistic point of view to have right now, considering things have been shut down. We haven't been able to move as freely as we want to, and go shopping and dine at our favorite restaurants as much as we wanted to.
Right, because of the reluctance to gather indoors. But now that the vaccine rollout is really accelerating, and really the North Country has done very well in its vaccination program.
Yeah, and I think the last numbers I saw, we were the highest vaccinated population in New York State in terms of the 3 counties surrounding. We want to keep promoting that. We want people to keep coming and get vaccinated. We have, I believe right now, we have 2 major vaccination sites, and that doesn't include the number of pharmacies that are vaccinating people as well. So it is one of those things, if we want to get back to some type of normal activity, get vaccinated, get out there, get your vaccination, make sure that you can support your neighbors and your elderly parents and your family members to get vaccinated as well.
And you mentioned this before, but you really need that Canada border to reopen, don't you? I mean, it's springtime. Your downtown marina, all marinas on Lake Champlain are, a lot of them have a very high percentage of those boats are owned by Canadians.
That's right, and we have right now, the city owns 2 marinas. One is managed independent. We have a partner marina just next door to us. Exactly, we rely on our Canadian neighbors who do their boating here to store their boats, to use their boats, to use our slips, to come and spend their money downtown and in our community. Not only that, but just the through traffic from Canadians traveling, say, from Montreal to New York City or to Albany or to places south of us. They stop in Plattsburgh. We're right on the thruway. They stop in Plattsburgh. They shop. They stay here, and we want more of that. And we really are looking forward to a border opening.
You're going to have a Mayor's Cup this summer?
Right now, we're planning on having a Mayor's Cup. We're planning on having a 4th of July event and a Battle of Plattsburgh event. We are waiting on some guidelines from New York State Department of Health as well as Clinton County Department of Health. And we'll still follow those same guidelines, of course. But right now, that's what we're planning on. We're planning on opening the beach. We spent a good solid 2 weeks out there doing a lot of cleanup, trying to identify and understand what kind of fix-up we need to do. We're slated to do some major renovations, some demolition of a derelict building that's out there. Mm-hmm. Just getting ready for the beach season.
Sure.
Look, last year, we saw people using the beach. The state beach was open, and so we want to still capitalize on that as well.
I mean, we're already looking at weather in the 70s, and it's April, which is so strange. But I want to ask you, sort of along the Canada line, not too many years ago, the mayors of Plattsburgh and Burlington and Saint Jean, which is just north of the border, sort of this triangle of Lake Champlain Basin communities, they would get together. As I recall, it was once a year or something in one town or the other, and they try to promote tourism, cycling, cultural heritage and stuff. Does that interest you? We haven't heard much about that for a while.
Yeah, that's something that we have also looked into. We've reached out to Mayor Weinberger's office in the last couple of weeks. Unfortunately, we just haven't heard back from them yet, and I know that they just went through their own political cycle. And with the border closing, I don't know a lot of people up there right now, but that's something that we are looking into in terms of reaching out and rebuilding those relationships. I believe at one point they called it the Golden Triangle. Where there's both the international and the interstate travel that people do come. People come from Montreal and they go to Burlington, they go to Plattsburgh. People from Plattsburgh go to Burlington and Montreal, and it's one of those things where it's right along those same lines. And when we talk about that regional approach and talk about regional growth, it's really key for us to build and maintain those relationships, not just with our neighbors like the town of Plattsburgh, but our neighbors north and our neighbors across the lake.
Let me ask you about race relations just for a moment. Obviously the country has been focusing a lot on this trial in Minneapolis, but really for the last year, a lot of cities around our country have focused on racial injustice, the need for police reform, not so much in your community. Why is that?
Yeah, I think the police reform that we are looking at, it does deal with that type of biases that we see just inherent in what it means to be a human being. Those types of biases that prefer one person that may look like me over another person who may not. Our police reform policy, when we passed it, and we did pass it and submitted it to the state late in March, we looked at a number of things, not only relating to how to address those biases, but also how to respond to certain types of calls, to certain types of emergencies, whether that be a response that required a police force or a response that did not require a police force. Looking at a crisis intervention team, looking at the type of training that's needed to be able to dispatch the proper response, whether it be a mental health response, a drug crisis, or an actual use of force response, or some type of armed response. So that's something that even though maybe, and it could just primarily be because of our population makeup. We don't, population-wise, we don't have a large people of color population up here. But although we are the most diverse population of people, because we have SUNY, we have the campus at SUNY, and we have people that come in from all over the state into our community to go to school here. But we just don't necessarily have those types of ongoing interactions as we've seen elsewhere. And we don't, and quite frankly, we don't want to have those types of interactions because we want to be trained to respond correctly. We want to be trained to interact with people who are different than us, and we just don't have a lot of that exposure. So for our police reform, we do look at training. We've looked at a lot of training. We've looked at a lot of not only just situational training, but use of force training, mental health training, and also drug relations.
Mayor Chris Rosenquist is the new chief of the city in the city of Plattsburgh. Thank you so much for taking the time and being with us here on NBC5 In Depth.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Stuart.